Hey guys, it is the Ace Michael Show. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. America, for watching, listening, sharing, and liking. We need that stuff. We have been doing very, very well with the show in 2020. So I want to just take a moment to say, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure you keep that support coming. And we'll keep the shows going with interesting guests like we have today. Today on the show, he's been on our show before. Everybody liked him before, and I was lucky enough to get him on again today. Our one and only Mr. Mack Miller, who is our citizens representative for Assembly District 5 here in Nevada. I'm not entirely sure what all that means he does for us, but I'm sure what he does is good. Welcome to the show, Mr. Mack Miller. Great to have you back again on the show, boss.
Thank you very much. A lot of people don't know what anyone does in government or what anyone does for their community until they need something and that person isn't there for them. But rest assured, when you need something, Mack Miller is here for you. So you will know what I do.
Thank you. Very well. That right there, that is, you got my vote with that right there. That was very well put. Very eloquent. So yes, let's get into the questions I have are many-fold. So the first thing is, man, what the heck is going on? We were working, we were playing, we were making life happen, making love, making things, move forward. And then all of a sudden our state got shut down, as well as our country, our nation, other nations. Your thoughts?
Well, we got hit with what some would say is a horrible disease or virus, the COVID-19, and what others would say is no different than a different strand of a flu that we haven't built an immunity to yet. I am not a doctor, but I go with the latter. In our country alone, we have historically recorded an average of 50,000 people dying from just, what we know as the flu every year. Now, I'm not discounting the deaths that we've had because of COVID, but no one shut the country down, or an entire nation, or an entire globe for that matter down. Even when we had the AIDS problem, that was extremely significant, and it's still going on today in a number of countries, not just in this country. We still have problems with that. So the biggest thing is, what people fail to realize is that the government, no government that I know of, if someone does, let me know. I want to find out. But no government, and particularly the American government, it doesn't make anything. It doesn't generate anything. When the government needs revenue, the government's idea of revenue is taxes. There's only one way the government in this country gets money to do anything, whether it's build roads or provide WIC for mothers that need women and infant children, and that's to collect taxes. Whether those taxes be from millionaires, whether those taxes be from the middle class worker, whether those taxes be from a small business or a large business, the fact is they're taxes. And when you shut an entire country down, closing businesses, preventing people from working, not only can people not pay their bills, but people also can't pay taxes. I'm not an advocate for taxes, but we can't help anybody if there's no flow of money going into the government, because like I said, the government doesn't make anything. So because of that pandemic, because of the fear that's been placed in people, people are afraid to come out of their houses. They won't touch anymore. They bump elbows with that. They won't come within 6 feet of you. Look, my opponent is the best at social distancing. No one's seen her in 2 years. I may comply with 6 feet distances when necessary and when required by, recommendations, but I get out there. And I've spent all of this year and all of last year fighting for us, fighting for what we all need, not just one demographic, not just one party, I'd like to let your listeners know that if they just go to mackmiller4nevada.com, that's MACK Miller, the number 4, and spell out Nevada.com, and select the issues button, they'll see that the issues that I talk about that I support and that we all support, I don't just list them on my website. I show you me fighting. I show you me fighting against those things or in support of those things with video of me in judiciary hearings. No other candidates or representatives are brave enough, apparently, to show you exactly what they're fighting for. And most of us don't know where to go find or watch those videos. By the way, they tend to be boring. So for me to actually get them and then show them on my website is daring enough. But I at least want to let people know that I'm not just talking a talk and putting a list on a issues board. I actually, everything that you see what I supported and what I didn't, and you see me fighting for it or against it. And everything that I work for and everything that I support and everything that the people that support me support, I have a personal interest in. It's not just like I found out who all liked this and who didn't. Every one of those items in my platform, whether it be criminal justice reform, whether it be immigration, I have a personal interest in. I have personally experienced something in those fields, which makes it so that I know what I'm talking about. I've been in a position where I didn't have mortgage money or rent money or money to pay the electric bill. I've been in the position where I had to barbecue in the backyard and pretend we were picnicking because the lights were turned off. Okay? So I know what the average American is going through. And when they say politicians are, they're set aside, they're unrealistic, they don't know what the real world is about. Well, it doesn't get more real than me. I've been arrested. So I've been on both sides of the law. I've been the person that's detained someone and had to wonder if I was going to actually shoot them because they didn't follow my orders. And I've been the person that has been detained by an officer. And make no mistake, I support those who peacefully protest, whether it's, I got out there with 7,000 people to open up this state to get us back to work. I support peaceful protests. I support all lives matter, not just black lives, white lives, whatever, you know. So we need my whole, if you look at my site and you look at what I stand for, it says I am working to get the united back in the states of America. That's what I'm about. And I've been working in this community all my life. I was born and raised here, and I'm raising my daughters here. So what happened? We had a setback, and that was all. Yes, people have died, but people die every day. We can't run from a virus. We need to hit it head on. And another thing, if we run and hide from a virus, we'll never build up immunity for the next generation. We'll never build up immunities for when I'm only 43, but the last thing I want to do is hide from it and then become 63 and it be my demise because I didn't build up some small immunity to it, you know? So that's where we are. That's where we are.
Now, you mentioned the word unity, and right now that word seems to be the most divisive word in the country. And you know, on my show, I don't think I'm the smartest guy, and I think that the average person that listens to my show would agree that we don't know a lot about the political structure. So I'm asking questions that I feel are questions from my people. So the one thing that seems a curiosity to me is how Republicans think alike and Democrats think alike. Like you mentioned thoughts about the pandemic that I've heard echoed by other Republicans. And I seem to know a lot of Republicans that don't want to wear a mask when they go out in public, but then a lot of Democrats that do. So how does it work by party? Is it just coincidence that a lot of you Republicans are thinking alike, or is it deemed necessary? Like, hey, you're going to be a Republican. When we say we're going this way, we all go this way. That's part of what it is. You know what I'm saying?
That sounds like that would be it, but no, I don't think it is. It's actually something in the mindset. I'll give you a perfect example. You know, it's like when you get, and I hate to use this example, but let's say you get in the car and everybody gets in their car and they want to head to Los Angeles or they want to head to Chicago, whether they want to go east or whether they want to go west. A lot of people in the car, if you're just going a short distance, you know, from here to Los Angeles, there's only one route to take. You're going to take the 15. That's it. But if you're going to drive to a longer distance, you've got multiple directions, multiple highways you can take. You can go up north and cut over that way. You can go south. You can go right through the middle of the country. And so because we've got to get farther out, because we as a nation have to think, we really have to think about the future and not just the immediate future, but we have to think well into the future and what we want it to look like. And because we have to think well into the future and what we want it to look like, we're all trying to get to the same place. Chicago, not necessarily, because the crime rate is astronomical there.
Right. I was like,
we're all trying to get
Chicago.
but I'm using it as an example. We're all trying to get cross country, but we just can't determine on which route to take. You know, have you ever been in a car and everybody's trying to get to a certain destination? Everybody in the car, there's 4 people in the car, and they all whip out their smartphones. And you would think that since you're all sitting within a foot of each other, when you whipped out your smartphone and you requested a map and a route to that location, you think that each phone would give you the exact same route, but it doesn't. Even though you're all put in the same destination address, everybody's phone, one guy's phone tells you to turn right here. Next guy's phone tells you to make a U-turn. The next guy's phone says go up 2 miles and jump on the 15. And the other guy says go back 3 miles and jump on the 95. But the one thing that all 4 of those phones have in common is the end address is the same. So that's where we are when it comes to the Republicans, in my opinion, and the Democrats being like mom and dad. Mom and dad both love you the same, but they have different ways of showing it. You know, if you ask mom for money, she gives you the money. If you ask dad for money, dad says, wash my car. You pick which one is more Republican or Democrat.
Sure. Now, I want to ask you a question. First off, I value and respect your time. I know you're busy, and you gave us the time today. So I'm not going to try to inundate you with a bunch of my questions, but I do have one that I feel is very important. You had posted or reposted something today about the COVID-19 reopening of Las Vegas. And we're waiting for the governor to give us a meeting tomorrow, Wednesday at 5 o'clock to hopefully shed some light on when everything is going to be open. I'm in the nightclub industry, so I would love to be able to have the bars completely open and the dance clubs and all of that. But anyway, the lead into this question is, what should be our focus, in your opinion, and what is your mission in all of this? The closures, the reopening, the pandemic, the COVID-19, is it, you know what I'm saying?
So one, there is more than enough information out there so that any learned adult or someone that's just listened to the news, notice I put them in 2 different categories, that would tell you, here's what you need to do to be safe. Don't wait, never wait for the government to tell you what to do, first off. Now, that sounds odd coming from me, running for public office. But number one, I would never advise any of my family members. And if I wouldn't advise my family members, I wouldn't advise anybody that I didn't even know. Never wait for the government to tell you what to do. The government moves like the Titanic. Private enterprise moves like a speedboat. You see, the government has the benefit of taking all the time they want in order to come up with ideas. They have years if they want to. It doesn't affect them. It doesn't affect their bottom line. But if you've got 2 competing businesses and they have to make a decision on how they're going to get their customers in the door safely, I'm going to choose to go to the business that is looking out for my safety the most, that I can see is looking out for my safety the best, that I can see. You don't go to a hotel that you heard had bed bugs. You don't go to a hotel again if you found the bed bug. You go to the hotels that prove to you and show to you they're the cleanliest, and the cleanest. And so in business, we need to encourage businesses to make sure that they know that their businesses are clean to the best of their ability. One can't be 100% sure that someone's not going to contract the COVID. By the way, you can't be 100% sure that you're not going to catch a common cold that we still don't have a cure for, that leads you to a bronchial disease, that puts you into the hospital, that you ultimately possibly die from catching pneumonia while you're in the hospital. But yet we didn't shut down the country for that either, did we? So I believe that what the governor needs to do, and by the way, I'd like to point out that I actually gave him phases 1 and phases 2 at a city council meeting over a month ago when he didn't know what to do and everybody was complaining that I was out there leading 7,000 people protesting to get our state back open. Keep in mind, of 7,000 people, two things happened. Two things that happened or didn't happen. With 7,000 people that we had at the south end of the strip going down to the state building to protest to open up Nevada, 60% of them, probably if not more than that, all carried firearms, open carry. And there's two things that did not occur from that event. One, we did not see a spike in COVID cases or deaths from anyone that attended that event, and that was 7,000 people congregating together. And two, with everyone having, not everyone, but a good percentage of people open carrying their guns, we didn't see any violence. We didn't see a police officer, and here's Shay Strong, but we didn't see a police officer get wounded or shot in the head and everybody had weapons visibly. They were all Second Amendment supporters. So there is a disconnect. There is something completely different from how, like you said, you see a lot of Democrats that won't go anywhere without their masks, and then you see a lot of Republicans that say, I refuse to wear a mask. It is a mindset. You do what you believe is best, either for yourself or to protect others, and we're gonna survive. We got through the bird flu and all these other things without the world coming to an end, and again, without clothing every business.
So on that note, I'm glad you stopped right there because that was actually my next question. And if you have time, it seems that this is a big oops then. Like, we got scared because we heard a noise upstairs. So what we did was we shut down upstairs. No one can go upstairs. We closed it so where there's no access to upstairs. And now we realize, doggone it, we need to go upstairs. We've got things up there that we needed to bring down before we closed it. And now It's closed. It's kind of embarrassing. And the longer we keep it closed, it's even more embarrassing. That kind of sounds to me like the scenario you're describing. Is that the gist of what you're saying?
It is, in a way. Here's the thing. You don't start a business without planning on how you're going to open. The governor shouldn't have ordered businesses closed without a plan on how to reopen them. You just can't do it.
That's fair. That's very fair. Yeah.
And the outcry wouldn't have been so bad if there was, at least once it was determined that there was no plan on how to reopen, if those phases would have been introduced a lot sooner. Look, people will tolerate a delay. People will tolerate a significant delay if you give them light, if you give them light at the end of the tunnel. Listen, now, when you go through a tunnel, if you see light at the end of the tunnel, you have some positive nature. You have something that says, okay, we're going to get through this, and there's the light. When you see no light, you get angered, or you get scared, you get frightened. You don't know, you're uncertain. You don't know what the future what lies ahead. The problem is this, and I said this at the beginning of answering this question. As long as he had given some hope and some idea as to how we would reopen, once you get in that tunnel, even though you see the light, tell me this, Ace, you still don't know how long the tunnel is. Mm-hmm. So, you can get in the tunnel and see light, but you don't know if that light's a mile down the road. And in this case, you don't know if that light is a week, a month, 2 months, or 3. But when you get in the middle of the tunnel and you don't see any light, that's what the problem was. That's where the outcry came. And because he was unwilling to at least give us some light and say, okay, we're working on this is how we're going to open, and what businesses first and what businesses second, and what kind of businesses and who can work, that would have helped tremendously. The biggest problem that I said was, number one, if the concern was our economy, or not our economy, but our industry being gaming and tourism, then fine, open the businesses off the strip. Don't open the casinos. Because half of the family, where you have one person, multiple families in our city, both parents or both couples or whomever work for a casino. But you have a lot where maybe one only works for a casino and the other works for a real estate company or a law firm or a grocery store or whatever, something that wasn't necessarily considered an essential business. My understanding was, I don't understand how marijuana industries were considered essential, yet you couldn't do certain things. And it just goes to show that when you looked at that list that he kept putting out, the governor kept putting out a list of what's going on with COVID. Every week, every other day, he'd put out an update. But his updates didn't do anything but depress people, because all it said was how many people got it, how many people died from it, and talked about the numbers. It didn't talk about what people wanted to know about. You've got to talk about what affects them. Nobody in Las Vegas, honestly, unless you have a relative there, no one in Las Vegas cares about what's going on in New York or LA or Seattle. They care about what's going on right here in Las Vegas. So the governor is not the governor of New York. He's not the governor of California. He seems to be taking his lead from them, but we're different people. We're a different demographic. We're a different populace, and we need to be governed in a way that's suited for Las Vegas and the rural Nevada, not suburban California or upstate New York. He seemed to have forgotten that, and I wanted to be the first to remind him. And we worked it out, and supporting the mayor, Carolyn Goodman, we worked it out. And literally 2 days, the day after that city council meeting, he announced phase 1, and then we went into phase 2. Now, I'm very proud of that.
I love to interview with you because your questions your answers, I should say, lead right to my next questions, which is now, there's two things if we have time for. I want to talk about your thoughts on Mayor Cuomo in New York and how he handled the situation. It seems that it worked really well. New York has done a complete turnaround in the sense of the numbers. And then Carolyn Goodman, goodness gracious, did she get a lot of backlash? Carolyn Goodman, let's start with her. It sounds like you agree with her assessment, although my thought is that it might have been too soon. Maybe we'll all agree what she said was the right thing to do in just opening up the businesses, but maybe it was too soon, like pulling the Band-Aid off the wound. People weren't really ready to hear that truth.
Let me ask you
so
this.
Salty.
So let me ask you this. Did you see the interview that our mayor did with Anderson Cooper?
Yes.
How long was that interview?
Well, it started off, I think it was about a 40-minute interview. It started off, the first 20 minutes were great, and then the second 20 minutes was disastrous. If it was 40, it could have been only 20 minutes, but I will say.
So Ace, you are very observant, and right there in that statement that you made and how long it was tells me that you at least know you don't follow fake media. I'll tell you why. I asked that question to everyone who mentions that interview with our mayor and Anderson Cooper. Mm-hmm. And when I asked them that question, they said it was about a 10-minute or a 5-minute interview. And I said, no, it wasn't. It was roughly 29 minutes. And it was edited for effect. 5 minutes is what they showed. And all of the 5 minutes just showed anything they could piece together that made our mayor of the greatest city on this planet look bad. And so what I said earlier in answering some questions was let businesses make their business the most safe they can because they have competition. You're going to go to the safest business. If one business isn't safe, you're not going to go there. Mm-hmm. Okay. And that's what I meant by the Titanic versus the speedboat. The government acts like the government turns like the Titanic and inevitably will hit an iceberg. Sure. Whereas and not only that, it has no competitors. The government has no competitors. We might like to think that the government has our own interests and our health and our safety, well-being. The fact of the matter, though, is that those usually leading the government are stuck in their ivory towers and don't really have a grasp on real reality and real life. And so that's one thing I'd like to applaud about our mayor is that despite the fact that she and her husband have been in office, despite the fact that we live in this great city that everybody thinks is just paved in gold and everybody's having such a great time, she's actually down to earth and she's realistic. And she's realistic enough to know that unlike Susie Lee, who called for our state to be closed for 12 to 18 months until we could come up with something to cure this virus, that's just unacceptable. Could you imagine us being closed? Look at how devastating being closed for a month and a half did to us. Could you imagine being closed for 12 months or 18 months? We're getting a taste of socialism, folks. If you like standing in line and trading toilet paper for currency, well, that's what it's like in a socialist country. When you can't win. And by the way, I don't know why people were buying so much toilet paper and not any food.
Right.
From the last time I checked, what are you gonna get? What are you gonna use the toilet paper for if you're not eating?
Right.
So I agree with the mayor's synopsis of it. I disagree with how Anderson Cooper portrayed our mayor on his national syndicated show or whatever. But that's okay, fine. If you're gonna listen to that, listen to that. That's why you have to be educated, and you have to know that you've got to take that with a grain of salt, and that this stuff is done for ratings. Ratings, folks. It's not done to inform you. It's done to get more people watching that show so that they have higher ratings, so that more advertisers will say you got more people watching your show, so we're going to advertise with you. That's how they get paid. I was a talk show host. I was a host on 2 shows, and I knew that the higher my ratings, the more people want to advertise, and the more people that advertise, the more money I would make. So I know how that works. We need to let people know that. Now, as far as how Governor Cuomo is handling New York, first off, they announced the top 10 states with the highest unemployment. Okay, and the top 10 states with the highest unemployment started at number 10 being Washington, 9 Illinois, 8 New Jersey, 7 Delaware, 6 California, 5 Massachusetts. Then we had Rhode Island, number 3 Michigan, number 2 Hawaii, and guess which was number 1? Number 1 was Nevada. Okay, and of the 10 states with the highest unemployment rates by state because of this, 9 of them have Democrat governors. Now, I don't know if that's a surprise or a coincidence or what. Another thing that people need to understand, too, is that for every death reported that's reported as a COVID-related death, the federal government gives about $33,000, if not more, to that state. The highest rates of COVID deaths come from the states that have the highest debt. The states that need the most money, coincidentally, have the highest death rates. Now, from independent reports from nurses and doctors across this country, it's been reported that any deaths that had anything to do with a respiratory disease during the last 2 months, a lot of these hospitals and people were reporting it as COVID-related because they would find COVID-19 in the person's body. Now, by the way, anybody could have had COVID-19 over the last several months, and it'd still be traceable. So you could die today having had COVID-19 7 months ago, and wouldn't it be convenient to report it as a COVID-19 death? So you see, I want people to think. I'm not saying to discount these deaths, but I'm saying you have to think. California and New York have record hospital closures because California and New York have a high rate of people who don't have insurance and undocumented residents, right? And undocumented residents, they use the emergency room, the ER room, like their own personal doctors and HMOs. But those hospitals don't get paid from that, and they end up with a huge deficit, and they suffer closures or lack of being able to care for the community that they were built for. And wow, here comes COVID-19. And in essence, it could resurrect a hospital if their numbers show very high numbers of COVID deaths. There's a lot of things that people aren't considering. Now, on the flip side, let's say on the flip side, this is truly, truly a pandemic that is just, it's the worst thing ever. And it's just, there's nothing we can do about it but shelter in place. Well, if that is in fact the case, then the healthiest of the healthy people need to get out there and build up those antibodies so that future generations won't die from this. It's why we played in the dirt. That's why, you know, I got family from the South, Louisiana. They let the kids play in the dirt. They say you got to build the little germs when you're young, when you're at your strongest, so that when you do get older and you may not be as strong as sometimes, you built up an immunity to it. What do they give you when you're trying to avoid getting sick from something? They give you a shot that is what? Basically a lesser dose of what you're trying not to get.
Sure.
So we need to think of that and we can't hide out from this. We need to fight it head on. Red, white, and blue, we do not run. We fight these things head on.
I got time for one more question. Can you give me one more?
Sure.
Okay,
you know I can. This
is the loaded question. So it sounds like it's a simple question, but maybe think for a second before you answer.
Ace,
Yes,
I am a Black Republican. I've been given loaded questions all my life, but I like to say the fact that I was born this color, anything that comes my way, I can brush it off of my shoulder.
That is true. That is true. At least I agree. I should say I agree. I don't know if it's true or not, but I agree. Okay, so here's the question. The question's been floating around for the last several weeks, months. The question is COVID-19 a hoax?
Oh, that's the question. Okay. I thought you were going to go on a little further.
Not this time.
Well, here's the thing. I don't believe that COVID-19 itself is a hoax. That would be like me saying that the common cold is a hoax. So let's reverse it. Let's make COVID-19 the common cold, okay? And just as I stated before, there are people that catch a cold. They then end up in the hospital because of respiratory problems. While they're in the hospital, a lot of people actually get pneumonia and die. Right. But again, if you look at the numbers of who that happens to, it happens to people who are in a very vulnerable demographic. Seniors, the elderly, those with pre-existing conditions. That can happen with anything, right? So while I'm skeptical to say that COVID-19, the virus itself is a hoax, I will go as far as to say that the press surrounding how dangerous it is, and how we have to avoid everything and hide and mail in our vote and not go vote in person, and all this sort of thing, that is a hoax. I hope I answered that question to your satisfaction.
Well, you always do enlighten us. That's a very, very good answer. We are out of time for this segment, and I want to thank very much from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank Mr. Mack Miller, citizen representative for Assembly District 5 here in Nevada. And where can we find you on social media? How do we follow you? We want to pleasantly stalk you. You've enlightened us, and now we want more.
Great. Well, you can always find me on my website, on my campaign site. I post very interesting information on there. I keep it up to date in the issues section. It's mackmillerfornevada.com. That's Mack, M-A-C-K. People often forget the K, but M-A-C-K, Miller, the number 4, Nevada.com, and Nevada spelled out. And then I'm also on social media, and believe it or not, I'm on Facebook. You can find me by simply going to Mack for Assembly 5. That's Mack, M-A-C-K, the number 4, Assembly spelled out, and the number 5. And I like to stay relevant. I like to post things that are in the today, but also just reach out to me and select the contact button on that campaign page, and I'll be happy to keep anybody up to date. And they can call me as well. I take calls. I actually respond to people in real time. Well, let me not say real time, but I try my best to reach out to people personally. If I get a call, I try to not let it go too long before I'm personally responding to their call or their email. It gets a little busy, but they can email me at Mack, M-A-C-K, at mackmillerfornevada.com. But again, just look out for that name. And if there's anything I can do for any of your listeners, just have them give me a ring or shoot me an email.
And that is what's up. Hey guys, it's been the Ace Michael Show. I think there's one consistent thing that we take from not just today, but I kind of touched on this before, which is that, media is a business, and a business needs income in order to continue to work, grow, and build. So you may have noticed that right before COVID, we were in the middle of a impeachment, and everything on media was impeachment trial, impeachment hearing, impeachment. And then there was COVID, and then there was all about COVID. And then for a short minute there were what they called murder mosquitoes or whatever, murder bees that were coming, hornets, murder hornets, whatever. And that
killer
was
hornets.
The story. And then the story after that was black on black. Now we're in the middle of a race riot, Black Lives Matter. Then it was police brutality, or maybe flip those two. The point is that they've got to make money. So I'm not knocking media. I'm not saying that you shouldn't enjoy and support media. I think I might even be media at this point. But you do have to take for a grain of salt, as they say in the movies, follow the money. Why are they saying what they're saying? Because they make money to say what they're saying, and they're keeping you on the hook. Anyway, something to think about. We'll talk about another show. As I say at the end of every show, I still mean it to this day. Guys, live the life you love. Love the life you live. Thank you. Thank you, my guest, Mr. Mack Miller, today.
Thank you, Ace, and thank all your listeners for actually putting up with one of the more realistic politicians out there.
Oh, and before we close it out, don't forget, vote. Vote, people, vote. That's all I'm going to say.
Please vote.